Welcome, foolish mortals, to the TV Guys podcast. I am your host, your ghost host. Kindly step all the way in, please. Make room for everyone. There's no turning back now. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And you are watching TV Guys.
You're listening to TV Guys.
No, you're watching it.
Right.
You are watching it with your eyeballs and your ear holes. So we, this last week, the TV premiere of Muppet Haunted Mansion came out. We're actually going to talk just a little bit about that next week. But I was so excited for it, super excited. It hasn't yet come out for us, but we are talking about Halloween-related stuff. So I thought that was a good intro. Time to bring that up.
And honestly, it's one of the very few, it's the first Halloween special the Muppets have ever done. The only other really Halloween things you've done is you could argue a couple episodes of the Muppet Show are kind of more Halloween themed. But other than that, they've never really dived into the Halloween stuff till now.
But we are going to dive into the Halloween thing. Hey, quick anecdote, because I feel like you might appreciate this. And this anecdote is PG because, we have a G-rated podcast. But so last night I was talking about a show, and I combined, when I was saying it, The Big Bang Theory with How I Met Your Mother, and I told Angie about character on How I Banged Your Mother. That is not a show. I don't know if you know that, believe it or not.
It'd be funnier if you were talking to your kids.
Yep. You say funny, I say scarring. I don't know.
Yeah.
So this week we are talking about, because we could talk about great Halloween episodes, and I'm sure we'll bring up some Halloween episodes. I keep wanting to say Hollywood episodes for some reason. I don't know.
Most of these were produced in Hollywood.
You got a point. So we're talking about Halloween episodes. I actually have two separate lists because, okay, so here's my thinking. I had one list of these are costumes that look really cool, and these are actually great costumes that TV characters wore. But at the same time, you look at it as TV has a high production value. So of course they're going to give those characters really good looking costumes. So I also have this other list that's these are costumes that actually reflect the characters really well and do some character building for having those. So I kind of have both of them, and whichever one you want me to use is this is our list. Yeah, I'll go through that, and then the other one I'll just kind of throw out some ideas from, or just what they were without going much into it.
I don't know, because the thing is that I actually have a larger list, and I was going to try to figure out on the fly which ones we're going to use.
So let's not do top three. Let's talk about really good TV costumes.
Sure.
And I'll kind of interweave both.
Sure.
These are ones that look really cool, and these are ones that are really good for TV wise.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think, since you have the categories and kind of that thing more planned out, do you want to start off?
I can, but before I do, I want to make the prediction that it's probably not that big of a prediction. It's probably a really obvious, easy thing, but in a week from when this episode posts, you're going to have Halloween, and I guarantee you are going to see so many costumes related to the Netflix show Squid Game. Have you watched any of that so far?
I actually watched all of it last week randomly. I never heard of it until my son started watching it, and then I watched all of it. It's good, but really freaking dark.
Yeah, I'm maybe a third of the way in. It is a very unique premise. And the one thing for me that's hard about it is it is Korean, and so there's an English dub over it, and it is really hard for a voice actor to match the rhythm of a different voice actor in another language. So some of the line delivery is that is not how you would do this if you're actually delivering the line. It feels very stilted, but the premise and the story is really good.
A lot of times the voices sound like what you would expect those people to sound like, and so it actually really fits. I think half the time I don't even notice that they are doing that.
Yeah, you can tell though that they have to I have to put a break here because in Korean there's a break in between this word and this word, and you're that's just a weird delivery, but I get it. You can't fault the show for being a different language.
Yeah, so I don't know if I could do a full another rewatch just because like I don't typically dive into like stuff that dark, but it's so like I don't think I'll ever rewatch it again. But
Yeah.
I will give it its due. It was very well done.
Not until season 2, that is.
They're making a season 2.
I have no idea, but I can't even say I could see them doing that because I have no idea how it ends. Does every single person die? Do they bring down the whole system? I don't know. You'll find out. I'll find out.
Oh,
So,
I already know. So
you already know. By you, I meant our viewers, not
okay,
you.
well, I'm sure some of our listeners already know as well.
Yes, I'm sure they do. This was a huge thing. So also just let us know too if you're like, hey, Squid Game, yeah, I liked it. I want to hear you guys talk more about it. Let us know. We'll do an episode. If we don't really hear from you guys, it's probably not going to be on our priority list for doing an
No.
episode of, but it might be something that pops up again.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me go ahead and start. So I'm going to start here with this is the like I really like the choice to do this costume versus this is good for the characters. So there's an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond where Frank comes in. Now Peter Boyle in
Yeah.
the movie Young Frankenstein plays Frankenstein's monster.
This is
So
on my
as a-
list. Yep. Yeah.
I thought it would be. So as a nod to that, he comes in, he's dressed as Frankenstein, which is a great gag in and of itself. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
that's great. You paid homage to a classic. And then Marie comes in, and of course she's dressed as Bride of Frankenstein. And it was just, it was so perfect. Their back and forth and their banter about it was great. I loved every part of that. I thought that was a great use of a Halloween costume.
I thought it was good, even though I don't think that like I think it might be a little bit out of character. I don't really see Marie jumping to like dress up in a Halloween costume, but I think for the gag of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's bride, I think it was fine.
Yeah. So what do you have for a good costume?
A great costume actually comes from The Big Bang Theory, not How I Banged Your Mother, but
Thank you.
I don't know if you've gotten to this point yet, but there's an episode later on where Howard dresses as Sheldon for Halloween. Have you seen that one yet?
I am not familiar with that one. I actually thought you were gonna. So this is like production value again. I thought you were gonna talk about that one where they go to Comic-Con dressed as Star Trek characters, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
all looked really, really good.
Yeah,
Like,
that
they
one was
did a
good too.
job.
No, so and you'll see this coming up. Howard dresses up as Sheldon, and he goes to the lunchroom table, and like Leonard and Raj are just completely laughing out loud. They get the whole gag, and he's even talking like Sheldon and giving out interesting fact and like doing all that, and then Sheldon doesn't get what he's doing at all. He like Leonard has to tell him like Sheldon, he's being you, and then later on, as retaliation, Howard dresses up as Sheldon and Amy dresses up as Bernadette to like in retaliation to them. And it's actually
Nice.
a really funny episode.
I like that. I like to see when characters dress as another, especially when it's an established dynamic. I think a really great example of that is, of course, in The Office when Jim dresses as Michael.
Yep.
I
Are you mean
actually
Dwight?
yes, you're right. As Dwight, thank you. I actually like had Jim on here for some of his Halloween costumes because I really like that Jim for his Halloween costumes puts this minimal effort in, but it's still clever. Like I loved when he just puts on a name tag and he says, "I'm Dave." Like that's his Halloween costume.
Yeah.
That's great. But when he dresses as Dwight, he puts more effort into dressing as Dwight than he does for any of the Halloween, and it's just so well done. And I loved that opening. I was like, I wanted to see a little bit more of that in the episode. They do a closing with Dwight doing the same thing to Jim, and also doing like the I'm dressing like you. I'm Jim. Hey Jim. Hey Karen. You want to go have sex with me because I'm Jim, your boyfriend?
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
All right. What do you got? What do you got?
Oh, that was it. But I can
Oh,
also
that's right. Oh, that's right. I thought you were just riffing off mine. No,
I was, and I changed my order to be able to do that. So
all right. Sounds good. Well, I got one that I guarantee you probably don't have, which is from Even Stevens.
yep, you are correct.
There's a Halloween episode where Lewis comes in. It's like a penguin jockey costume. It's one of those costumes where it's supposed to look like he's riding a penguin. Like his legs are in the penguin, and then there's like fake legs hanging off the side. So it looks like there's a person riding a giant penguin.
Nice.
And I remember when that first came out when I was in high school, I thought that was like the coolest costume ever.
Nice.
I just like that genre of costume of like the fake you're riding something.
That is a very strange genre to be drawn to. Like, hey, are you writing something? I'm in. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Chuck and Morgan when they dressed as the giant sandworm from Dune early on in Chuck?
I have to remember what that looked like because I watched Chuck all in a one little span, but it was a long time ago now. It was like
Plus, it was like season 1, so it was really early.
yeah.
Oh
So
well. If you don't remember, that's fine. Dune's coming out, the remake, and hopefully that doesn't suck.
there you go.
All right. So here's another one I've got for like really good looking costumes, not for anything character wise. I enjoyed watching the 4 guys from Stranger Things dress up as the Ghostbusters in season 2. Thought that was great, killer, like wonderful use of a group costume. So
yeah, I consider that as well. But I didn't have that as well. I was going to maybe wait to talk about that next week. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I think no, that's definitely a good, especially for the time because that would have been right when it came out. So that would have been a topical costume at the time.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it was the same sort of thing. Like if you ever watch the Goldbergs, Adam Goldberg has some really good costumes, but like it's the same thing production quality where they're like, okay, we're going to have you guys do a Ferris Bueller's Day episode where you're definitely going to dress Barry like Ferris Bueller. You're doing a Ghostbusters episode. He is dressed just like a Ghostbuster. They do a really good job of costuming in that as well, as an honorable mention.
Yeah.
And we don't bring up the Goldbergs very much because I don't know. I liked it. It's getting boring now. It's the same premise every single episode, but like the characters are still pretty good.
I haven't seen hardly any of the Goldbergs. That's when it's set in the 80s, right?
Yep.
I think it's always tricky when you have something that's set in a time period for a long period of time.
Yeah.
One was kind of just for the gag of how dumb it was, but there was a runner in How I Met Your Mother about how Ted would always be the third wheel in costumes with Marshall and Lily.
I thought about that and bringing that up.
Because I made a list of something that was like salt and pepper and cumin, or a Lady and Tramp and their bowl of spaghetti, or Lewis and Clark and their canoe.
Yeah, I like the canoe one.
Yeah. Or R2-D2 and C-3PO and the other droid that Luke's uncle almost bought at the Jawas.
That's a great concept. Very like a great thing for the writer's room to just be able to toy with. Okay, what are great couples? And then what do we add as a really bad third option?
Like at one point, Ted is saying, "Well, what's salt and pepper without cumin?" And it's like, well, who even knows what cumin is? Like, if I wasn't looking into like making salsa at one point, I wouldn't have ever heard of cumin.
Same here. Well, no, I mean, I knew cumin, but all right. So here's another one that is a great segue because this not only is a really really good looking costume, but it also works as a great character moment costume. And that was Troy and Abed in Community from, I think it was season 2. It was the Zombies episode. I believe that's season 2. And so Abed dresses up as a xenomorph from Alien, and Troy dresses up as Ripley from Aliens. And she's got the like suit of armor thing that she fights the xenomorph with. Yeah. The whole episode, like first of all, they looked really cool in them, but the whole episode is about how then Troy kind of gets mocked for dressing like a nerd and nerding out with Abed, and so he completely changes his costume. He goes as a Dracula, and like he doesn't actually put on any costume at that point. He's just has a sign that says Dracula, and so like the whole episode is about him sacrificing his friend in order to look cool and giving the peer pressure. Mm-hmm. And it was a really great idea for how to show that rift in the relationship while also having really good costuming. So,
yep. And at the end, he went back to the nerdy costume in a failed attempt to try to bust through all the zombies to get to the AC unit.
Exactly. And then he gets bit. All right, you bit me. Okay, great. I loved his like frustration about it, where it's like it was such an inconvenience to him. Oh, fine, you got me. All right, whatever.
Sorry. Yeah. See, one thing that I had, so I have a couple from The Office because there's a lot of good ones from The Office because they've done a number of good Halloween episodes and they always do really well at picking out costumes for the characters.
Yep.
And it might seem obvious, but I feel like we can't not mention Creed as the Joker.
Yeah, I liked the opening gag of so it was Creed, Kevin, and who else was dressed as the Joker?
Dwight came in at the end.
Dwight was at the end. I thought there was a third one in The Office before it cuts to Dwight because it shows him on the elevator. I thought there was 3 in that main, and then it goes to Dwight, who looked.
No, I thought it was just Dwight, Creed, and Kevin because Creed comes in and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great!" And then you see Kevin, and Kevin's like damn it, Creed, I've been up since 4. And then at the end, it's Dwight coming in, not knowing he's going to walk into 2 other Jokers.
Yeah, you're right.
But it was spookily done. Like, it was like very well done. And
Yeah.
so this, I'm trying to remember the time, was this, obviously, it had to have been after Heath Ledger died, because Heath Ledger died before the movie came out. But it must have been
Yeah.
right around the time The Dark Knight came out.
Yeah, Dark Knight came out in July of that year, and so this would have been obviously October, so
Yeah.
6 months or 4 months after that. Yeah, and Heath Ledger died earlier in that year, in like the February or March, something like that.
Okay.
Yep, 2009, I want to say. I saw Dark Knight 3 times opening weekend, and then one more time the following week, 4 times in theaters.
Well, I did not. I saw it one time in theaters.
Get on my level, Brian. Get
No,
on
thanks.
my level. All right, I'm going to do one more from Community. And it's funny because my final 2 that I wanted to bring up, neither of them are actually from Halloween episodes,
Huh.
but it still fits costuming wise. So Community, if you're talking about costuming, you don't get much crazier than the Dean because he just
yeah.
costumes like nothing. I think his best one was when he comes in and he's got good news and bad news. So he's dressed like right down the middle. Half of it is women wearing women's clothing and half of it is wearing men's clothing.
Yep.
So he does this little shtick about it, and then he leaves, and then he comes back because he forgot like his cane or something. And then he has this hilarious self-realization moment where he's like, guys, I think I went too far with this one. I have to go to the bank today.
Oh, yeah.
What am I going to say? I have good news
and bad news.
News. Like, I love that whole thing. Like, the Dean being self-aware was just so hilarious, and it made that costume even better.
Another great one is Ross as Sputnik / Duty on Friends.
Nice.
So he comes in as a potato with antennas. So he's like, it's a play on words for the Russian satellite Sputnik from the 50s, which I actually knew about from the Boy Meets World episode that took place in the 50s. And then the whole joke is that like almost nobody gets it, and they all think he's dressed up as poop. And Joey's like, "Hey, you dressed up as Duty."
You want to know something funny? My final one is also Ross from Friends. Can you guess what it is?
The Holiday Armadillo?
It's the Holiday Armadillo. Again, not a Halloween one, but this is a great character moment. I really love that not only were they able to say, okay, why am I blanking on it? David Schwimmer, not only is David Schwimmer Jewish, and we want to honor that, but we also want to show a good moment between him and his son of a father wanting to make Hanukkah special for his son. I love that whole storyline about it. And even like Chandler being really awesome and nice and coming in and what he did, but then even in trying to be nice, kind of almost ruins it for Ross. And so the little bit there is like, I'm just trying to help you, man. I pulled some strings. I got a favor. And like, how can I help you make this moment, this Christmas special for your son, or this Hanukkah special for your son? I thought that was a great arc or a great story for that episode.
Yeah, that was. And that, I mean, and those are both like, and it's weird how like Ross is sometimes the more neurotic one, but like he's the one that gets like the outrageous costumes.
Yeah.
And that one had another character acting as another character when Joey came in dressed as Chandler.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, and like, of course, it also kind of means a little bit more to me as a father of young kids, because it's like that is kind of parenting. You roll with the punches. They didn't have any Santa suits. You were looking all over for Santa suits, and you couldn't find one. You make lemonade out of lemons. Like that's exactly what he did. Of course, the Holiday Armadillo is a stupid thing and it's nonsensical, but that's all he had. That's the only shot, and so yeah, I liked it.
All right. So another one that I had was also from The Office. I'll give you 3 guesses as what the next one is. I think it's just a really well done costume.
MacGruber.
Nope, that's a good one though.
It is a good one. The Rational Consumer.
No, that one was terrible and annoying.
From the
you're on the same. You're on the right episode though.
Oh, I was gonna say from the forgotten soft opening now in that one, Jim's book face.
No, I wish that opening was in there. No, it was Gabe as Lady Gaga.
Gabe.
Yeah, say what you will about Gabe, but that was a really well done costume, and like I don't know, just opened up more about Gabe that he would go all out with that costume.
Angie would yell at you. She, like, I was talking about this beforehand, and she's like, You know what the worst Halloween costume? And I didn't even bring up The Office. I'm just like, we're talking about good Halloween costumes. Like, you know what the worst costume is? Gabe as Lady Gaga. She hated it.
Oh,
So
I I just think it was really well done. It's hard for me to like. I get that it's really creepy and weird, and that's the whole point of it. Is that Gabe is just like sticking the mud, and he comes dressed as Lady Gaga, but
yeah,
like they went all out in that costume.
yeah, yeah. That was good. I don't know. I don't think I have any more for me.
The only other one that I had was and just the fact that it keeps repeating was that Ron has one Halloween costume on Parks and Rec, which is a pirate. I think it's after the second Halloween episode, someone says, weren't you a pirate last year?" And he's like, "Yes, this is my Halloween costume." Like,
That's what his name. I couldn't remember Chuck Liddell's name. So when Andy dresses as in the same in one of the same episodes, because you said it correctly, Ron has the same one multiple years. But in one of the episodes, Andy dresses up as Chuck Liddell, and he looks so much like him. That was like a on point representation. But I also like in that same episode where he's talking about the shock wire in the shower. It's like, don't touch it, because then you'll die. And Ron's
yeah.
like, yes, that is accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that was a good one too. And also, I like the Jerry as Mr. Potato Head just for the fact of like when he sees Chris making out with his daughter, April just comes up and turns a smiley face into a frown.
Man, that show is so well done. There are so many great character moments. I love shows where they know who their characters are and the actors know who they're playing, and it just works and it clicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've mentioned this before, but one of my favorites is in the goodbye Chris and Ann episode when they were leaving the show. Jerry says like a really nice, sweet message to Chris, either to Chris or to Ann or something, and they were just like, "I thought that was going to go on forever. Like I thought you were never going to stop talking." And then all Ron has to do is he says, "Goodbye, Ann. I've missed some of our time together." And then everyone's bawling, saying, "That was really something, Ron."
Another great example of like just their group dynamics all working together is the last minute wedding for Ron and whatever her name was.
And Diane.
Diane, thank you. That season opener. And it's just like all of them are there at the courthouse. And it's just so all fitting for like what their personalities are, where Ron's like, all right, I know Leslie won't let this rest. So Leslie, I'll give you 10 words or 30 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
And she has to like come up with all this. She's like, I have to make this special. I have to really make this moment huge and all that sort of stuff. Like every single person is on point in that. I just love it.
Well, actually, in that one, I just recently watched that one. It isn't everybody. It was just Leslie and April because they were coming back from from like doing a river project or something.
And
Andy was there?
I thought I was certain Andy was there because he was there when she comes in and tells them that she's pregnant, and then he's like, "Oh, well, we need to get married," and that because I remember they had to have filmed that before that season because all of a sudden, inexplicably, after that cold open, they're in London, and they're in London because of Chris Pratt being in London for Guardians of the Galaxy 1. So I thought that I remember him being there because of that.
Well, I don't know. Andy might have been there, but for sure Leslie and April were there.
Yeah. Yep.
So Matt, let me ask you this: have you ever had a great Halloween costume yourself?
I've had some pretty good ones. I did dress as the Joker that same year, but that wasn't for Halloween. Well, maybe I still did for Halloween, but I did for what is that event that they do at North Central like that first week? Like
what's it called? It's some event where everyone dresses up weird and it's just kind of a fun, goofy thing.
Yeah, and I remember when my freshman year, I was like, "What is this? This doesn't sound fun. I don't want to go." Because like the naming of it was weird, something like disco something, or like it wasn't that, but it was something like that where it's like, I don't think I want to go to this. And people are like, no, this is the event. You go to this event.
It's not Battle of the Floors. That's something else.
Yeah. If you guys remember, I know there's people out there who are listening who went to North Central. You know what I'm talking about. You know that event. You tell us what it is, because then we'll be like, oh, yeah, that's what it was. So I dressed as the Joker for that one. I've dressed as Marty McFly multiple years because that's like kind of my go-to thing. I stabbed a bunch of boxes of cereal and put it against my body, and I went as a serial killer.
Huh.
I dressed as Waldo one year.
I did that too.
Um,
And then actually a cop on the loudspeaker said, "Found you."
Nice. I tried to like this is the last time I really tried in a Halloween costume and it didn't work well and I didn't end up wearing it because it sucked. But I tried to like bleach a bunch of clothes and then like draw faint outlines of it like with a black pen or whatever and go from the guy in the music video for Take on Me by Aha, who's like running through the painting and I was gonna have Take on Me playing throughout the whole night attached to my person.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that music video?
Not from the music video, but I think I've seen it. I know the song for sure.
Yeah. There's a guy in a black and white drawing and he reaches out and grabs one of the girl who's in the video and brings her into the drawing with them and they're running through this black and white world. So
Okay. Nice.
it's very iconic. If you saw it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I recognize I've seen this before.
Yeah, I might have to look that up again.
Yeah. So I almost went as that and then it didn't work. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even like Halloween. I don't want to do it anymore. It's stupid and not fun. And I had a pity party. How about you?
I was trying to think, like, as a kid, once I went as Aladdin, and I've gone as the genie. I did a few Aladdin themed ones. Like I said, I've been Waldo. It's not a whole lot of costumes I've done as an adult.
You've been John Wayne and I've been Groucho Marx. I was actually just thinking about this the other day.
Oh, that was for like a some youth party thing.
It was the young adults murder mystery that we did.
Yeah,
And I thought it did take place around Halloween
it might
as
have.
well, but I don't know for certain. I remember that night. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember because Groucho Marx is like an insult comedian.
Yeah,
I remember you were goading me the whole night, like with mocking me and insults and jokes. And I remember just being so caught off guard that you were on the offensive. I sucked. I was not funny at all. And like you'd say something and then everyone look at me like ready for me to shoot back. And I'm like, I don't have a good comeback. I'm off my run. I'm like, you caught me.
I wish I remembered that because that sounds like it was awesome for me.
It was. Yeah, I was like, man, Brian's on fire tonight, and I look like a moron.
Yeah, I do remember one time you talk about dressing up as Marty McFly. I heard one time you posted a picture of yourself as Marty McFly, and it was a really good costume. But I remember my comment was, "I'll be impressed if it's complete with the purple Calvin Klein underwear."
I don't remember that comment, and probably for good reason. I don't typically enjoy men commenting on my underwear, but
I'm the exception, right?
that's true. I also don't typically enjoy women commenting on my underwear either. I guess I don't know why you needed to differentiate a gender there. I don't want anyone to talk about my underwear.
Is there anyone besides me and possibly your wife who actually talks about your underwear?
Yes, there's forums on Facebook. There's like a huge Facebook group, thousands of people.
Cool. I don't know if I want to. No, I do know. I don't want to be on that group.
After thinking about it for 0.3 seconds, I have come to the conclusion, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Well, we have reached the wonderful part of the evening called trivia time. And so what was last week's trivia, Brian?
My trivia was all about why people left Power Rangers under bad circumstances.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Because I mentioned how the Pink Power Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson as Kimberly, was the only one who left the show on good terms. So actually they had like a whole arc where like they introduced the new character while they were on screen together and they had a whole character thing and she passed on her powers and all that. The other four, so the first, it was the red, black, and yellow Power Rangers, Jason, Zach, and Trini. They all went in and asked to be making more money because early on in Power Rangers, it was a huge hit. Like the Saban was making so much money off Power Rangers, and they were paying the actors like crap. It's not a union show, so they weren't even making scale. They were just making like crap money. And instead of honoring them, giving them more money, they were like, no, you're fired, and we're going to hire 3 new kids who will do it for free. Which is why you notice, like, even in the like those 3 were going to be in the movie, and then the new Rangers, Rocky, Adam, and Aisha, they were in the movie, not the original ones.
Yeah. And was Billy, he left because of being bullied?
Yep. So Billy actually went through all the way through. David Yost as Billy went all the way through Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as the Blue Ranger. He went on to Power Rangers Zeo, which is the next one after that. And he was on most of that show, but I guess, so he is gay in real life. And I guess it wasn't so much the cast, because he seems to have a good relationship with the cast. I've seen him in videos with cons and stuff. But I guess producers and crew would just mercilessly make fun of him and tease him. And I guess he said he was called faggot too many times. And so he just walked off the set from all that discrimination.
I mean, once is probably the magic number for too many times, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure it was more than that.
yeah, it's from what I hear, he put up with more than he needed to. And from whatever you believe about that, like it's just kind of crappy to like just bully people and treat people
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And so
No,
it's yeah,
yeah, no matter what you think, no matter what you believe, it's like there's ways to treat people. That's
exactly.
just the end of the story.
And so I'd like to think, I don't know for sure, I'd like to think that Power Rangers has gotten more okay with
Not
things.
crappy.
Yeah, not crappy over the years.
You'd like to think that because you love it.
Well, they've gone through owners, like it went through Saban, then Disney, then back to Saban, and now Hasbro owns them. So I don't even know how the business side works for any of that.
What is it with you and loving these shows that have like really saucy behind the scenes crap? Like Muppets had so much drama from all the stuff that you're telling me. They have had so much drama. I mean, at the same time, that's what you're going to get when you have 30 some years of a show.
Yeah,
of course, there's going to be that, but they have had so much behind the scenes stuff. Same with Power Rangers.
Yeah, I actually have. I feel like you might enjoy this. The biography of Jim Henson, and it's a really interesting read because like I learned so much about him as a person outside of just being Muppets. It was a really interesting read. When he died, he owned 5 houses.
That would be interesting. I would love to have 5 houses. Nope, I wouldn't like that because there's taxes. I'd love to be able to afford 5 houses. That's what I meant.
Yeah, we think about back in that time, like Sesame Street, Muppets, they were all owned by the Jim Henson Corporation. Think about how much money Sesame Street merchandise brings in alone.
Oh, sure.
And so I figured like that was like his bankroll.
Even the least popular of all those, Fraggle Rock, still made a good amount.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not anymore, but in its day, it made a lot on lunchboxes and etc.
For sure.
Yeah. What a guy.
Yeah.
All right. So my trivia is a lot easier. If you've watched Community, you probably know it. Brian, I guarantee you're going to know it. So the episode I talked about with Community was the Halloween episode with zombies in season 2. And there was a musical soundtrack to that episode provided primarily by only one musical artist.
Yep.
And what was that artist? Guarantee Brian knows it.
I think we may have mentioned this on a previous episode too, and I'm pretty sure this killed their music budget for the rest of the season.
It very easily could have, because I mean they used like all the hits, like 4 or 5 of their big hits in one episode.
Yeah, it's just an odd choice. It was early on too. That's early on in the season. We say, you know what, I like this gag. I don't care what we're gonna do the rest of the season. We're gonna be having this band on the whole episode.
It was a great gag though. I loved it.
Well, the gag it was that band also intermixed with the Dean's personal memos to himself.
Yeah. That's so good. I love it.
All
right. Well, next week, continuing with our Halloween month, we are talking about Stranger Things. We save the best for the weirdest. And so Halloween week, you are going to get Stranger Things episode with our good buddy, Dan Risdall. He's going to be on this episode with us. And we're just going to talk about how great Stranger Things is. So if there's anything that you're like, hey, bring this up about Stranger Things, I definitely want to tell you about this. I think you guys should talk about this with that episode. Let us know. We will bring it up. And until then, we'll have Dan here, and Brian, you'll be back. So I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.